Hello and welcome to Indonesia for round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We have officially reached the halfway point of the season, with Asia about to play host to qualifying at a brand new event. We're breaking new ground this weekend as the Formula E circus arrives in Jakarta for the very first time. New track, new location, and if you thought our fight for the World Championship was at boiling point, well, think again. We're about to turn up the heat, literally. It's hot, it's sweaty, and something tells me all our drivers in contention for this World Championship are well up for the fight.
This time it's my turn.
Wins in Berlin.
Hi everyone and welcome. This is the Jakarta E-Prix. We're excited. We're trying to stay cool, but it's impossible. Temperatures are through the roof, humidity is outrageous, but we're having a good time so far. This is qualifying at the brand new Jakarta E-Prix. It's exciting to be here. Jack Nicholls and Dario Franchitti.
It's a really, really cool new venue. Formula E's first ever race in Indonesia, the first single-seater motorsport race in Indonesia since 2006. So breaking new ground, brand new track, drivers are enjoying it. The championship is bubbling up nicely. Looking forward to this.
Dario, before we get into qualifying, let's talk about last time out in Berlin. It was literally a tidal wave of success for Mercedes.
Yeah, absolutely. Edo Mortara's win in the Rocket Venturi with Mercedes EQ powertrain and Nick de Vries, they seem to really dominate there. Those two teams sitting on top of the team's championship right now. Nick de Vries leading the drivers' championship too. So they had it all figured out. Whether they've got it figured out this weekend here in Jakarta today, that's a different story.
That's going to be the interesting part of it, I think, because it's such a circuit that nobody knows. Everybody knew Berlin. There have been 1.3 million races there since the start of Formula E. And so, as a result, everybody knows what they're doing. Whereas here, it's all brand new. So Stoffel van Dorn leading the championship, but he was only 16th quickest in free practice 1. A bit better in free practice 2, but there's a chance for other teams to come into the mix and into the fight.
The weather is going to play a massive part in today's qualifying and then the race. We've just had Jake Dennis come in, have a quick chat with us, and it was all about the tyres. It was all about tyre temperature, degradation, all the stuff that you would expect on a track which is so hot.
Well, apart from talking about his date the other day, but anyway. No, the asphalt is very black, new asphalt. The sun beating down on it, it puts the temperature through the roof of the asphalt, which then does the same to the tyres. As the tyre gets hot, it gets out of its comfort window, starts to slide around. As they slide around, they build more heat again. So it's the most vicious of vicious circles. Today's race, 45 minutes plus the lap, but it's going to be an endurance event, I think.
In photographs on social media from the official Formula E social media outlet, makes it look like a go-kart track, but it's not. It's not as tight as it looks.
No, it's really big and wide. It's not actually as tight as many Formula E circuits. And we're up here right by the beach in the north of Jakarta, up by Ancol, and it's a really cool place and a really cool track, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the cars.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Very exciting, and as always, this new qualifying format is superb. It separated the cream from the rest of the bottle of milk. All right, let's go over to Radzi, who's with Nick de Vries.
I'm indeed Vernon, the reigning world champion, Nick de Vries. Nick, we're here in Jakarta, but first of all, you must be delighted. Coming off the back of that fantastic win in Berlin, you're right back in contention now.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but we definitely needed that Berlin win to kind of put ourselves back in contention. Yeah, we had a bit of a tough ride in the last couple of races, but luckily Berlin, yeah, made us turn around again. Obviously here we're in a new event, new track. Temperatures are very hot, so I think everyone is challenged a lot by that, especially for tyres and battery. And yeah, it's going to be a challenging race for many different aspects. So I think you'll see a lot of excitement out there.
It's going to be exciting. You mentioned that it's new for all of us, but you've got a personal connection here, so it's amazing for you to be part of this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the welcoming from all the Indonesians and locals have been really, really kind and welcoming. So it's been very nice to be here, and it's a real pleasure. But obviously, today we go racing, and that is all that matters.
So in which case, you're the perfect person to ask, how do we deal with this heat and humidity? Have you got any tips for us?
Well, honestly, I would ask the real locals.
Because it really is a factor, isn't it, the conditioning in terms of the tyres and everything else that goes on with this?
Yeah, I mean, basically, when you go out of the pit lane, the tires are already, you know, in the window, so everything is just too hot, basically, and it's the same for everyone. So everyone has to deal with the same problem, but it's definitely gonna, I think, involve or influence the race a lot.
Thanks so much for your time, and all the best for today. And Jack, it's safe to say, if this man performs anything like Berlin, it could be a special performance.
I found Oliver Rowland out the back of the Mahindra garage. Oliver, pace looks all right so far today. The quickest in free practice 1?
Yeah, quickest in free practice 1. Pretty competitive in free practice 2. We understood some things. Obviously, it's a new track for everybody, facing different challenges. You know, it's extremely hot here. It's actually quite bumpy as well in some places. So just trying to tune out a little bit of instability and also try and keep the tyres under control, which is going to be important even over one lap.
Yeah, so how does that work? What can you do over that one lap? Because you're going to do an out lap and then sort of start your flying lap. But in the group qualifying, it's a little bit different. And are you just going to go like as slow as possible on the out lap? Is that the only thing you can do?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get the brakes up to temperature as well, so you can only go as slow as possible without obviously having the brakes too cold. There's many things you can do with car setup or even driving. You know, you can kind of underdrive the first bit of the lap and then extract the most in the end part of the lap, or you can push in the beginning and hang on the end. So I think it's going to be quite interesting how different drivers approach different things. But yeah, we need to make a step, to be honest, in qualifying on the balance just to make sure it's perfect. But I have full confidence we'll do that.
Okay, and so far this season, what you started out well qualifying in Diriyah, but it's kind of slipped away a little. Have you found stuff with the car?
Yeah, the last 2 races have been better, you know. I mean, qualifying, I haven't been in the duels every race, but nearly, I think, all bar one race I've started in the top 10, so it's not been a disaster. I just always end up 5th and not 4th. But yeah, hopefully today we've been finding more and more confidence. It's taken a while for me to kind of settle in and understand exactly how everything works and even adapt them to me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to today and hoping that today's the day we can get back in the duels.
Cool. Best of luck.
Thank you.
It's interesting how different people are approaching the weather and the temperature. Let's take a look at Antonio Felix da Costa in the swimming pool at the back of their garage. The paddock's full of these little paddling pools where drivers are just chilling out, relaxing. Dario, you raced in the 2nd hottest Indy 500 in history. From a driver's perspective, what have you got to do to try and stay cool?
You've got to keep your body cool, various ice vests and all that, but when the race starts, you've got to stay cool, but you've got to keep your mind cool, and that's so important today. Do not lose your temper, although every physical thing that's going on with you, you're going to want to.
And can you feel the heat beating down on you whilst you're driving?
Oh yeah, but the cooling air whistling by your head is going to be key.
All right, well, this is it. This is qualifying for the new Jakarta E-Prix. Jack.
The first ever qualifying session in Indonesia in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, the Jakarta E-Prix. There's a look at the circuit, ready to go. We're up in the northwest of Java Island and just by Jakarta Bay. And these are the drivers that will be first out in qualifying Group A. It's 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, etc. The odd-placed drivers in the championship. So we'll see championship leader Stoffel van Dorn. We will see Jean-Eric Verne, Robin Freins, Andre Lotterer. Now, those are the 4 drivers that, in theory, should be the ones to advance through to the duels, including Stoffel van Dorn, the championship leader. A lot of pole positions, 7 pole positions in his Formula E career for Stoffel van Dorn. He has had 2 pole positions already this season. And can he repeat that again today? But it's the same thing that we always say, Dario. If you don't get through to the duels, if you're not in the top 4 in your group, you don't get through to the duels, you're starting 9th or lower on the grid. You're in for a tough day.
You are in for a tough day, Jack, and it could be over as early as turn 1, because as wide as the entry is to turn 1 today, you're going to see 3, 4, 5 wide, I would say, on that first lap. And you're in that zone in the pack where you can get hit from behind, or you can hit the car from behind. That's where the action tends to happen. So you want to obviously have as clean a lap as possible and start on the, obviously start in the pole, but it could be critical today to the result you get and actually just even getting any points at all.
Sergio Sede Camara is headed straight out onto the circuit. We'll see some running in the first part of the group. You have to set a lap time in the first 6 minutes, and then you have to set a lap time in the second 6 minutes. And I imagine the end of the group will just be an out lap and just a push lap straight away. That's the only choice that these teams and drivers have because of the heat here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking to Jake Dennis before we came on air, and Vernon and I were talking, and he said, look, by the end of the lap, yeah, the tires are gone already. So your brain's telling you to go easy through the first couple of corners to keep tires under the car for the end of the lap. But drivers being drivers, racing drivers, they just go flat out and they just have to deal with the car sliding as it gets towards the end of the lap.
And I think because, well, I don't know, I'm at wonder because there's so little practice. You can't sort of, the fans are applauding Sergio Sede Camara as he comes through. You almost can't practice that going because you get so few runs in it and so few practice laps. You can't almost get into a window of knowing how much to underdrive in the first half of the lap, or is that incorrect?
I think any time, if you've done 2 laps, I think it gives you a good reference point.
Right.
The 2 clear laps, it gives you a good reference point, and then you can then decide, oh yeah, overdid it here, underdid it there, and you talk with your engineers about it, and that's where experience comes into play, I would say, in any formula of racing. As you see, Sergio Sede Camara, that's through turn 2 into 3 already. You hear the back of the car sliding all the way through the corner. Neat and tidy those through turn 4 and 5. Just watch how bumpy it is in the braking zone to 6, a curved braking zone. Early turn in, different surface change just there. Coming through 9, this is turn 9 now, then it goes into 10, 11, 12, one corner after the other. And you've got to sacrifice a little bit in the corner before to get through the next one, because it will keep the car positioned correctly for the next corner you're coming to. Braking for turn 13. Sergio Sede Camara looks like he's slowed down.
Yeah. So Sede Camara has backed out of this one.
That's the hairpin in turn 13, Jack. Sorry.
Oliver Askew, Gunter and Buemi have left the pits now with 9 minutes to go.
This is the point where you don't want to get out of sequence with anybody else, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be on your push lap when everybody else is warming up or finishing their lap, because they'll be trying to get out of your way because they don't want an interference penalty. Doesn't mean to say they're not going to get in your way. And look, there's rush hour. Sergio Sede Camara just came out of the last corner as well, so he's now going to have to deal with all this traffic ahead of him, and I don't think that was in his plan. I think his plan was to do that first lap, but it sounds like, I would say, the tyres weren't in their operating window, so he aborted. You see Oliver Askew coming through. This is turn 17 now towards the end of the lap. He's going to take an odd line through 18 to accelerate as straight as possible off 18 and start his lap with the maximum speed across the start line.
So Oliver Askew in the Andretti comes across the line now, down towards the first corner. Hasn't made the duels yet so far this season. In fact, his best qualifying performance was 12th in the 3rd race of the season in Mexico. He's very wide coming out of 1.
Yeah, carried a bit too much speed through the middle of the corner and tried to open it up, but he's already struggling there. And Oliver Askew, rookie this season, let's not forget that. He's all these tracks. This one is new for everybody, but every other track has been new for him, and he's just learning to understand, having done a couple of seasons in IndyCar, learning to understand how to get the most out of a Formula E car.
Less than 8 minutes to go. Sounded squealy, didn't it, on the tyres as he now comes into the middle sector. He will go quickest because he's going to be the first driver to set a lap time. That's why he's 1.3 seconds up. But the car doesn't look great, does it, as he comes through the hairpin at 13, now into turn 16.
You've got to try and keep the tyre inside its slip angle the whole way around the corner, but it's knowing which part of the corner to put the speed, to carry the speed, and he's got some traffic now. It's the car in front, one of the Dragon Penske cars held him up just a little bit.
Yeah, it was Sede Camara. Askew goes to the top of the times, but won't be there for long, I wouldn't have thought, because there are plenty of drivers going quicker. Here's Max Gunter in the Nissan now, coming into the final corners at turn 16 now, and then into 17 and 18.
He's 6/10 up at the moment. Not going too wide through 17 because you've got to prepare for 18. This last corner, it's so tricky. All the drivers really struggling to get the power down, not miss the corner on the way in and get the power down on the way out. Max Gunter, P1, a 109.5.
Sebastian Buemi beats him on a 1 minute 9.4, 8.7, 800ths of a second faster. Freitz and Lotterer are still pushing, and this is Van Dorn out of the final turn and across the line. And Van Dorn now goes to the top on a 1 minute 9.354. Then is Jake Dennis, and he does quicker, a 1 minute 9.121. Nick Cassidy goes into second place. Then Jean-Eric Verne goes into second place. The Diaz de Cheetahs were rapid in the first part of the lap, but there is a yellow flag at turn 16, so some of these drivers will have to have backed off a little in the final sector, and I think it's Robin Freitz, because he's the only driver that hasn't come through the final sector yet. Here he comes back into the pits. Rear left, maybe, a bit of damage. Is the steering wheel straight?
It's not bad, yeah. Let's see what happens.
Here he comes, way there he goes into 7, big lockup.
So yeah, that's earlier in the lap. This is still turn 7. Replay hits the bumps, dances around, catches it. Great car control from Robin Freitz. Car sliding around a bit, but looks like there's a bit of...
Is there a bit of advertising or something in the back?
Stuck to the...
And he's looking in the rear left mirror,
yeah.
And he hasn't set a lap time in this first 6 minutes as well.
This all points to maybe coming out of turn 13.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to...
Odd one though. Unless it was out maybe earlier in the lap.
Or offline into 7 and then hits the wall into... Oh, no, because he was only 3/10 down after the middle sector, so yeah, exit of 13.
We are
I think
totally
would be my
guessing
guess.
right now.
Yeah, I know, but it's fun, isn't it? Exit of 13 would be my guess.
Not if you're Robin Freitz, but yeah, everybody else back into the pits. And a traffic jam in the pits now.
Yeah, Lucas de Grassi returning. So after the first runs, Dennis, Verne, Cassidy and Van Dorn would be the drivers that would be going through, so it would be a bit of a surprise to see de Grassi and Lotterer remain there. Van Dorn right on the bubble in 4th place.
And Lotterer's made every duel.
It's over, and you can go please to wait yourself.
Oof.
So Bertrand Famine telling Freitz it's over. And that's really bad news for the championship, for Robin Freitz, because he is 5th in the standings, about 30 points adrift, but not completely out of it if he had a good result today. He's not getting a good result today, because he'll be starting at the back of the grid.
Yeah, and you know,
he can come through and get some points, but
yeah,
maybe.
I think today, actually, as hot as it's going to be with all the tyre wear issues, the battery temperature issues that we're expecting, I think any result's possible from the back of the grid. I think it's going to be one of those old-school Formula E races today.
Let's see what Freitz looks at here. He goes and looks at the back of the car, and it is the rear left that he's looking at, isn't it? So,
love to see the rear left.
Here we go. Is this going to be it here? Through
6.
That's him slowing down, but there's already debris on the.
Did he catch
on the
the
thing, isn't it?
Maybe caught the apex of 16.
I think exit of 13, but anyway.
We'll soon find out.
Yeah. But it's because he didn't do a lap time that he's out of the session as well. You've got to do one in those first minutes, so the damage may not be too bad, but because he didn't do a lap time, that's why the team is saying it's over. So we'll get to the bottom of that. But Sede Camera is out on track now in the Dragon.
Yeah, early again, so he risks having that same problem that he had with traffic. 2 minutes 40 to go. Is he going to do a preparation lap? 2:40.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's this is interesting stuff from Sede Camera, because he's weaving around at quite a low speed, which is presumably to get heat into the tyres, but that's what most of the teams and drivers seem to be trying to avoid. Speaking to Oliver Rowland before the race, or before the session, he was saying, yeah, you want to go as slowly as possible, but you've got to get heat into the brakes, and that's the difficult part. Getting heat into the tyres ain't tricky today.
I was going to say, just pull it out the garage.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished, but yeah, it's definitely a tightrope that they're walking. And each team will have their own theory on how to maximise performance of the tyre.
Right, everybody else heading out onto the track. Van Dorn, the championship leader. Jean-Eric Verne, 3rd in the standings in the 25 black and gold DS de Cheetah. As they come into turn 1 on their outlaps Sergio Sette Camera, is worried about catching the rest of the pack on the radio. Roger Griffiths is the boss at Avalanche Andretti, which has Oliver Askew in 10th and Jake Dennis in 1st. And there is Gunther coming through 16. And getting ready now to fire it up. They're all at 220 kilowatts of power here as Gunther comes out across the line and tries to advance through to the group stages. Neither Nissan has made it through to the groups so far this season. Gunther has had 2 10th places. Buemi had a 10th place in the first race in Berlin. Gunther throwing it into 2 and 3.
All the road out of turn 1 and that immediately goes straight into turn 2. The line's changed a bit as the speeds have picked up. Catching the oversteer out of 4. Through the kink in 5, 6. Braking for 7. The car dancing. Quite a late turn-in point.
Only 500ths down in sector 1 on Jake Dennis's time. Sergio Sette Camera is a similar margin down in the first sector.
Max Gunther, though, slow to the power out of turn 8. Let's see if that's reflected in the split, which comes up now. He's, no, still right there. Car sliding through the apex, missed the apex of 13 just a little bit. He's trying to pick out his braking point of turn 16.
Sette Camera's 100th up after the middle sector. Buemi and Gunther are lapping very similarly. Gunther now into turn 18.
Used all the road through 17, has that compromised turn 18 though, nice and neat. Oh, no, he hit the wall.
Comes out across the line and Gunther goes 3rd for the moment, but Sette Camera's going quicker than him. Vern's going a bit quicker. Dennis isn't really improving. The lap times are going to tumble now. Sette Camera comes through and he remains in 6th place. Here's Buemi now, out of the final corner. Dennis is improving in the middle sector. Vern is improving. De Grassi is improving. Buemi goes quickest.
Top of the charts.
1 minute 9.0, but the drivers behind are still going quickly. Here's Jean-Eric Vern. Championship leader Stoffel Van Dorn is only 800ths up on Buemi, so Van Dorn is going to be really close here. Jake Dennis through the final turn. Onto the power and towards the line. Does he get ahead of Buemi? He does. A 1 minute 8.988, a 10th clear of Buemi. Now here comes Stoffel Van Dorn. He goes quicker than Dennis. That should put Van Dorn through. Vern should be through as well in 2nd place. Here comes Cassidy. He goes 5th. Lucas de Grassi is 5th. De Grassi doesn't make it through. And Andre Lotterer, for the first time, doesn't advance through to the qualifying duels in the 36 white and black Porsche. Van Dorn, Vern, Dennis and Buemi get into the qualifying duels the first time this season for Sebastian Buemi. Disappointment for Venturi and for Envision. But good news for the championship leader Stoffel Van Dorn, through and fastest. So, Lotterer 5th quickest, De Grassi 6th, Cassidy 7th, Gunther 8th, 9th for Sette Camera, 10th for Askew, and 11th for Robin Freitz in that session. Here's Van Dorn's radio.
The track is just gradually improving at the moment, so I do expect them to go a bit quicker. It's yeah.
Okay, that's Stoffel Van Dorn saying he expects the other group to go a bit quicker because the track is gradually improving. So here's a look at the first qualifying group in the bag. Stoffel Van Dorn, Jean-Eric Vern, Jake Dennis and Sebastian Buemi, the 4 drivers advancing to the duels. Here's a look at Max Gunther coming into the final corner again at turn 18 and just tapping the wall on the exit. I wasn't quite sure if it had broken the rear. No, I think is it pointing a little in now?
Yeah, he hit it quite square.
Yeah.
It's not got enough help, to put it that way.
Yeah, that's very true. So, those 4 advancing through. Bad news for Freitz. Not great news for De Grassi, but he's not really in the championship hunt. And Lotterer as well. First time not making it through to the duels this season. 5th, so he was right there, but just not there enough. Qualifying Group B about to get underway. We've got the 2nd, 4th, 6th drivers in the championship. So the ones to keep an eye on really are just Eduardo Mortara and Mitch Evans as far as the overall championship fight is concerned. But De Vries is in form. Verlijn's won a race this season. Da Costa and Bird want to get some race wins under their belt. Roland, Turvey, Sims, Ticktum and Giovinazzi, the other drivers heading out there. And we saw earlier on how difficult traffic can be. Nick De Vries for the Mercedes EQ squad, and Antonio Felix da Costa for DS Techeetah had a little bit of a moment on the circuit. Qualifying, in qualifying it shouldn't be quite as bad, but there was this dramatic moment in free practice 1 where da Costa sort of got out of the way, or De Vries half got out of the way, but half didn't. And I don't think da Costa was particularly impressed with that moment.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get out of the way, but kind of actually made things worse. But then this next bit was interesting. They just kind of drive alongside, going slowly and not particularly happy with each other at that point.
So da Costa and De Vries out in the same qualifying group now. And there is the Portuguese racer whose best result this year is 4th place in Mexico City. He has been in the duels 5 times so far this year, only missed out 3 times. Qualifying Group B underway, 12 minutes on the clock. You've got to do a lap in the first 6 and a lap in the second 6. And these are the drivers that will be heading out there. Both of the Jaguars are going to be in this session, so that's going to be a bit of a stressful one. A lot of British drivers as well. Bird, Roland, Turvey, Sims and Ticktum, with Dennis already through into the duels. Look at downtown Jakarta, about 20 minutes or so south of here.
Is that a bit of rain?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Could be interesting.
Nick De Vries getting ready to go out. A win here. And he does have an outside shot at the championship. He's a bit too far away right now. Yeah, but if he continues his form, yeah, exactly.
You know, this is the opportunity for those type of guys, that Antonio Felix da Costa, Nick De Vries, to get back into the championship fight. It just takes one mistake from those guys up front. Edo Mortara, he qualifies badly today.
Yeah,
it's an opportunity to get back into the fight.
We also saw flashes of pace from Neo earlier on. Neo 333 were, I think, 6th and 7th in free practice 2, with Dan Ticktum ahead of Oliver Turvey. Now, their best qualifying this season has been 14th with Turvey in Berlin, so that'll be impressive if they can get up sort of into that top 10 region. Would be a really impressive achievement. Mitch Evans looking to get through to the duels. Like I say, Mortara and Evans are the big 2 in this session, because Mortara is 2nd in the championship and only 12 points away from the championship leader, Stoffel van Dorn. And eyes closed for Mortara.
Just visualising the lap, just what he's got to do here. He's got the information from his practice runs, where the grip is, what he thinks he has to do a little bit differently, where he thinks he can brake a bit later or get to the throttle a bit earlier. And now he's ready to go. Visor down. And Giovinazzi's out on track. Oliver Turvey headed out too. This is that one, you've got to tie the lap together. It's one thing having the possibility, the potential to do a lap. You've got to get it right. 18 turns, you've got to absolutely get every one of them spot on.
So Dragon doing a similar thing here that they did with Sette Camera, sending out Giovinazzi pretty early. Roland's gone out last, but yeah, Giovinazzi sort of out of sequence here with the rest of the gang. Here he comes, and everybody's in front of him basically, so they're all going to need to keep out of Giovinazzi's way. We'll see what the Italian can do. He actually was a good news story as well. What was he, 8th quickest, I think, in that second practice session?
9th quickest.
9th quickest, which for Giovinazzi's not too bad. And he's through turns 1, 2, 3.
I mean, this is madness. This puts him in such a difficult position because he's got to weave his way through traffic while keeping his foot down, and it's easier said than done. First sector, 20.2. He's 2/10 off the quickest sector from Group 1. Nice and neat out of there, though.
Now down into 13.
More traffic ahead, though. And these guys are thinking about starting their lap now. Mitch Evans getting out of the way in the Jaguar.
Now into, and he's backed off Giovinazzi. But also, we did see Sete Camera do it similarly, didn't we? Turvey's locked up there, I think, into the first corner. And he's starting a lap now in the Neo.
The Neo mechanically looked very strong this morning. When Oliver Turvey got to the end of his lap, the car had a lot of grip. It wasn't sliding over the surface. He drove very well to get to the limit of the tyre and not drive over the limit of the tyre, which is easier said than done, because everything you do, you're trying to push, but that sometimes is not rewarded. A bit wide, though, out of turn 9.
De Vries 600s up in the first sector. Turvey 2/10 down on Giovinazzi. We're with Nick De Vries as we come into 11, then into 12, now down into 13, and compared to Giovinazzi, De Vries is 4/10 up. A bit wide at 13.
Yeah, just you can see the car starting to slide across the surface at the end of the braking zone.
It's Verline and Bird who are both going quicker than De Vries on this lap so far. Turvey out of the final corner in the Neo, and he goes a 1:10.0, the first meaningful lap time of the session. And now here,
second off, Jack.
Yeah, here comes De Vries, a 1:09.4, goes half a second quicker than Turvey. Verline now goes quicker, 1:09.0. Lost 3/10 in the final sector, actually, did De Vries, compared to Verline. Bird slots into second place. Dan Ticktum goes 4th fastest. De Costa is going quicker than everyone at the moment. Here comes Mitch Evans in the other Jaguar. Sims goes into 5th. Evans now jumps up into 2nd place. Keep your eyes peeled here for De Costa, fastest, a 1:08.715, and Mortara slots into 2nd place, and Rowland slots into 4th position. So De Costa, Mortara, Verline and Rowland, the drivers that will advance at the moment, but everyone's got one more run to go.
That's a good first lap from Da Costa. 108.7, 108.8 was the quickest in the last group, so that allows him a little bit of breathing room. He can just push a little bit harder, knowing that he's got a really strong banker lap in his first run.
Less than 6 minutes to go. Da Costa, Mortara, Verline and Rowland, the drivers that would make it through at the moment. That would be bad news for Mitch Evans, although he won from 9th on the grid in Rome, and that may be where he would start. But the two Jaguars in 5th and 6th places said earlier on to me, Evans, he just doesn't, they don't really know where they are. They're really struggling to get a read on the circuit and the competitive order. And at the moment, they are 5th and 6th, although Evans has got the best qualifying versus his teammate in the field. He's out-qualified Bird 7 times in 8 races, and no one else has got a record that strong. We've got a few 6-2s with Freintz and De Grassi and the like. Let's head down to Radzi while we wait for the next runs.
Well, I'm currently joined by Sylvain Filippi. Not the perfect situation, obviously, as team principal for Envision. The nightmare scenario for Robin Freintz, not managing to set a lap time. What did you put that down to?
Well, I think, to be honest, our pace was not great today, like from free practice 1, P2. We are struggling with the tires. Our car seems to be harder on the tires than most of the cars. It can be down to so many different things. So, yeah, despite our best efforts, we are not far, but not quite there, you know. And being 2-3 tenths behind in Formula E is the difference between the front and the back, you know. So, yeah, unfortunate for Robin to hit the wall. But to be fair, we had to take a lot of risk and push hard to try to get there. So, yeah, a tricky day for us. We need to understand why our car is so hard on the tires.
Must be incredibly frustrating. Speaking to you in Berlin around this time, you were saying quite a similar thing, but Robin managed to overcome something and get points from it.
Yeah, here's the other way around though. Berlin was really cold and you needed to put the tires in temperature. Here our tires are gone before we even start the push lap, which other teams don't seem so affected by it. They are, but not as much. So anyway, maybe it's maybe we'll be better at the tracks we are more familiar with and we know we are fast at. But yeah, disappointing morning for us. Yeah.
Good luck for later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sylvain Philippi there confirming that Robin Freit's hit the wall, presumably on the exit of 13. Meanwhile, in qualifying Group B, everybody is in the pits, waiting to head out. Nick de Vries, Indonesian grandfather. Very popular man here. Drove the Formula E show car around the national monument, the Monas, earlier on this weekend. Little through the legs from the mechanic. I like that. Did you see that little nutmegged himself? Cool. That was great. Eduardo Mortara, though, second in the championship. The last 2 pole positions have been Eduardo Mortara's.
You see, they didn't put the tyres on and sit the car with the tyres on because the heat from the brakes would bleed up in through the wheel and onto the tyre and get temperature in them already. And you want to keep them as cool as they possibly can for this final qualifying attempt, group qualifying, to try and stay in contention for the duels in a minute.
Out goes the dry ice.
That dry ice would be quite nice right about now.
Yeah. And we're all right, we're in aircon. There is that. Roland.
This man's not, though.
No, he's not. Nick de Vries, 7th at the moment. Race winner last time out in Berlin. Reigning champion. Felt like a relief to him winning in Berlin after such a difficult few races. He said it felt good to be back when I spoke to him yesterday.
But the difference between success and failure just being so minuscule.
Yeah. Right.
Oh. Rush hour. Jakarta.
Here we go then. Both Mahindras out. Sims is the first man in the queue. Back of the queue is Eduardo Mortara is the last man on track. No, he's not. There comes Antonio Giovinazzi. No, he's not. There comes Dan Ticktum. Is that it? Yeah, that's it now. So Ticktum is the last man in the queue. 1.5 minutes to go. And like I say, the big ones here really, Mortara and Evans, as far as the championship is concerned.
And as slow as they're going, these guys on the warm-up lap, the problem that Ticktum has got is he might not make it to start his lap. I think it's close. And you're going to make it, he might have to push harder than he wants and overheat the tyres before his lap's even started.
Berline there in the Porsche. Turvey, the black and gold DS to Cheetah, Antonio Felix da Costa, who's got Evans and Bird right behind him. Still got a minute left, and it's only half a minute or so through this final sector, so those guys should be okay. Ticktum has dropped quite a way off the back of the group ahead. Here comes Alexander Sims. Here's de Vries' radio.
Hold position now.
De Vries being
Do not let
told.
the cars behind, go ahead.
Exactly.
Hold position.
Don't let anyone pass you.
Margin.
He's got an 18-second margin though, so they're reasonable.
It's easier for the engineer to say, isn't it?
Yeah. So, Mortara and Evans, the two that really need to get through to the duels to keep their championship hopes alive. Here comes Roland down towards the first corner. Verline following him with his dramatic weave of the bumps.
Yeah, trying to avoid those bumps. You hear the car just went under the bridge hitting.
It's going to be tight here for Dan Ticktum. The timing line is halfway down. Is anybody going to miss out? Giovinazzi gets going. Here comes Ticktum. It's going to be very tight. And does he make it? No. Takes the checkered flag. Real shame for the Neo team. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but now it's going to be those who have started a lap are going to start setting middle sectors and first sectors. Evans has done the quickest first sector of anyone. Alexander Sims is coming down to the hairpin. Mortara's done a good sector 1. Sims is 1.1 seconds away. Oliver Rowland, meanwhile, is a quarter of a second away. So I don't think the Mahindras are going to be making it through this time. Here is Pascal Wehrlein. He's a quarter of a second away as well. No one's really lighting up the timing screens here or getting close to da Costa. Da Costa's done a personal best in the middle sector. Here comes Wehrlein into the final corner. Gets on the power in the Porsche. Rowland will cut the line in front of him. He remains in 4th place, doesn't improve. Wehrlein goes up into 2nd position. Evans needs to find time, and he is finding time. Here he comes, out of the final corner, the Jaguar driver. Da Costa doesn't improve. Evans gets into 4th place. Is that going to be enough? Bird comes across the line and he's 6th. Can Nick de Vries push Evans out? No. So Evans is through, Mortara is through. The two title protagonists advance through to the duels, but Nick de Vries for Mercedes EQ does not. Da Costa quickest for DS Techeetah by 1,000th of a second.
1,000th of a second. It's incredible how close it is. There's some heavy hitters in that sort of 10th, 11th area on the grid. Just missed out on going through to the duels.
It's now 8-1 in qualifying for Evans over Bird. A real shame that Tictum couldn't get his lap in.
Sam Bird, no, only a 10th off his teammate Mitch Evans there. It just shows how close it is, the difference between getting into the duels and not.
Yeah.
Giovinazzi didn't set a lap.
No. Albert Lau, De Vries' engineer, and good to be back, said De Vries after the race in Berlin, but he's kind of back to where he was before he was back.
Yeah, for him.
With that qualifying performance, although...
Turn 1 is key today, Jack.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, De Vries was always kind of qualifying okay and getting through to the groups, but you saw Albie Lau gutted with that. Da Costa, Mortara, Verline and Evans, the 4 drivers that advance through to the duels. De Vries out, Roland out, Bird, Turvey, Tictum, Sims and Giovinazzi out as well. There is the national monument with the flame on the top. That is Monas. And apparently Albert Lau on the radio is taking the blame for that issue, or for that lack of progression for Nick de Vries, which is an interesting one. Fans in the grandstands this morning here in Jakarta, watching their first ever Formula E race, and they've got little Formula E fans.
The fans have got fans.
The fans have got fans. Very good.
Thank you.
So, Van Dorn, Mortara, Vernon Evans, the top 4 in the championship, all through to the duels. So that's sort of, I mean, it's not job done by any stretch, but that's a huge stress of their day taken away by just getting through to the duels and guaranteeing you're going to be on the first 4 rows of the grid.
Absolutely right. And Lucas de Grassi, I think it was Monaco, said to me, he said, look, this championship, one lap, that one lap in qualifying can ruin, if you get it right or get it wrong, can ruin your whole weekend. And yeah, he's not wrong.
Reese back into the garage. 5th quickest. So he'll be starting 9th or 10th on the grid.
300th of a second, that's what he missed by.
Yeah. Gotta go and get Wade. Is the message. So here we go then, into the duels. And this is how it will work. Evans will face Van Dorn. Verline will face Vern. Dennis will face Mortara. And Buemi, in his first appearance in the duels, will be up against Antonio Felix da Costa. And that's, even though Evans is 4th in the championship, this is only his 3rd appearance in the duels, which is quite remarkable. But a very frustrated Nick de Vries making his way down to the FIA garage. That's where he's going basically to get Wade, which is at the entry to the pit lane. Evans getting ready to head out in the first of the duels. The Jaguar driver will be facing Stoffel Van Dorn in the Mercedes EQ, as he looks for another pole. The first duel about to get underway, the first quarterfinal in qualifying for round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, the Jakarta E-Prix. Before we get underway, we'll head down to Radzi.
It's me, Vernon, and this is James Barclay, the man in charge of the Jaguar team. Mitch keeping his championship fight alive. 4th and 7th for your boys. A 1/10 of a second separated the two. Just goes to show you how tight Formula E is.
Yeah, it's incredibly close today, Vernon. I mean, the track conditions, the track is evolving all the time as well, very quickly. So yeah, Sam incredibly close to not making it through. It's a real shame because, you know, he just missed out. But good luck from Mitch. Maybe a little error in the final corner. Otherwise, we might have been a little bit higher up. But we got through. That's the main thing.
I feel really guilty because Mitch has just gone out and you're stood here. You should be in there. Go on, James. Off you go. We'll let you get it back. There you go, James Barclay, the man in charge of the Jaguar team. And, of course, Mitch Evans.
Thank you, Vernon. Apologies. And we'll see what Evans can do up against Stoffel van Dorn. There's a bit of some of the fan village. It's plenty of action going on in the Allianz E village. And the grandstands all the way around the track as the cars get ready to head out onto the circuit in this new format of qualifying that has been very, very popular indeed. Really looking forward to this one. The qualifying in the last race in Berlin was tremendous. And quarterfinal 1 is Mitch Evans for Jaguar TCS Racing against Stoffel van Dorn for Mercedes EQ.
I love qualifying. I love going flat out. New qualifying format is really exciting. Let's see who comes out on top.
I'm fast because I'm in the zone, I'm focused, and I'm talented.
And that's Van Dorn's view. He will be chasing Evans around. They won't start the lap at exactly the same time. They will be staggered, about 10 seconds or so apart. And out goes Evans now onto the circuit. And the duels begin. And this is, the semi-finals are always a big one as well, because you can be 8th or pole, depending on whether you win or lose your quarterfinal. And also, you can be 8th or 5th, depending on how slowly you lose your quarterfinal.
Yeah. And again, the margins are tiny, but think about this is now they're running at 250 kilowatts of power. They've got a 13% increase in power than they had in the group qualifying. The track's going to feel completely different. It's going to look different. The way you take the corners is going to be different. Where you brake is different. And you're going to be approaching the corners a lot quicker. So these guys have done some practice this morning at 250, but not in these track conditions. So they've got to adapt very, very quickly.
Van Dorn's tyres, having been out in Group A, will be probably a bit cooler than Mitch Evans is in Group B, so that could play into Van Dorn's advantage a little bit. As they come up towards the final couple of corners. It'll be Evans across the line first, followed by Stoffel van Dorn. A place in the semi-finals up for grabs as Ian James, the team principal of Mercedes EQ, watches on, as does James Barclay at Jaguar TCS Racing, as we come down towards the first corner. And Van Dorn throws it into the right-hander.
Didn't use quite as much road as we've seen others do. Neat and tidy.
Oh,
Evans is down at turn 7.
Yeah, Van Dorn's 4/10 down on Evans already, just after the first corner. So it didn't look too bad from Van Dorn from what we saw, but he's lost 4/10 of a second to Evans.
Oh, but if Mitch Evans does that, it's going to give Stoffel van Dorn a big chance to catch that gap up.
Yeah, that was a big twitch coming through turn 12. The gap extends, though, to almost half a second. Here comes Van Dorn. Gap comes down a little now to under 4/10. That was where Evans made the error. Here he comes now into the final corner, out across the line. Evans sets the benchmark of a 1:08 8.935. Van Dorn's closing a little more, 0.3 of a second between them. Into the final corner, really up towards the wall there, Stoffel van Dorn. But it's not enough for the championship leader. Eliminated in the quarterfinal.
Looked like it was all the first corner, Jack.
Yeah.
Gone. I mean, I don't know if he made a big mistake. It didn't look like it. It looked like he maybe didn't use all the road. But
4/10 was a huge amount, yeah. So, Stoffel Vandoorne out. Evans goes through to the semi-finals, and that's going to be good or big in the championship challenge. Verline up against Verne next. Tagore Porsche versus DS Techeetah. Verline has beaten Verne already once in the duels this season. And here comes Verline into the final corner. Yeah, I didn't really get across to you how important that was in terms of the championship as well, because Evans is 4th in the standings, Vandoorne is 1st, so those two going head-to-head was very interesting. Here comes Verline now across the line. He is 8th in the championship, and he is up against Jean-Eric Verne in the DS Techeetah, who has looked incredibly quick over the course of the session so far, as Verline leans on the car all the way around turns 1, then into 2, then into 3, and here comes Verne down towards the first corner. So keep your eyes on the gaps between them after turn 1, who is going to have the advantage. Oh, it's right together. 200ths, Verline has the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Verne was so fast this morning in free practice too, but he's got to put the lap together right now. That's the only one that counts.
800ths up now.
God, the car was bouncing over those bumps. Bit of sideways in turn 7. Did that cost him any time though?
Big lock up from Verline coming into 13.
Yeah, it looked like he was a bit offline, and as you can see, if you go offline, it gets really slippery. But Verline at the moment, 800ths ahead.
He's got the advantage back, still less than 1/10 of a second between them. The gap goes up a tiny bit more to almost 1/10. Verline really leaning on it, coming through turn 17, out through the final corner. Verne has now got ahead by 800ths of a second. Verline's benchmark time, a 1:09.029. Verne is ahead though, but he's fighting the car. There's only 100th between them. Into the final corner. It's neat and tidy from Verne on the exit, just a little correction as he drives to the line. It's Verne, 1/10 of a second. Team principal Thomas Chevauchet delighted with that. And Verne advances to the semi-finals to face Mitch Evans. It's a 1:09.029 for Verline, which is quicker than Stoffel Vandoorne managed. So Verline will be ahead of Vandoorne on the grid. That was a close one.
Yeah, that was fantastic, and you could see the end of the lap, the car sliding around.
Jake Dennis for Avalanche Andretti up against Eduardo Mortara for Rocket Venturi Racing in the 3rd quarter-final here in Jakarta.
My favourite thing about the duel is really the head-to-head competition, you know, not knowing what the other driver is doing during the lap. So you don't know if he's made a mistake or he's on the best lap of his life. You never know.
Qualifications are no different than the races. We have to handle the pressures in the best way we can.
So, Eduardo Mortara, as we see Stephen Lane, the engineer for Stoffel Vandoorne, sending his car out onto the track. And here is Mortara. Down at the first corner. And Mortara is ahead by about 700ths after the first corner. Dennis is ahead of him on the road. Really fighting it, Mortara, isn't he? What's the gap going to be? It goes up a little more to 700ths of a second. Mortara, every time he's made it through to the duels, has made it through to the final. Dennis's best qualifying result so far this season. He's won 2nd on the grid twice, in both Diriyah and in Rome.
Mortara extends that advantage to nearly 0.2 of a second. Jake Dennis coming up to the last corner now.
It's closing in.
Oh, he narrows it up.
Oh, right to the wall on the exit of the final corner. Dennis's time is an 8.6. That's a very quick lap, but Mortara is going quicker still by 1/10.5. Coming into the final turn, this is where Dennis looked pretty strong, and the gap is now less than 1/10 of a second. Mortara turns in. Bit of a slide towards the line. It's going to be tight. Mortara by 0.2 of a second. But a very quick lap from both of them. Dennis eliminated, but comfortably the quickest of the eliminated drivers.
8.4 for Mortara. I mean, you've got to feel bad for Jake Dennis. He's got 2nd quickest of anybody, and he's out. But that's the nature of the duels.
Yeah, absolutely. But Dennis will be at worst 6th on the grid for the E-Prix later on today. Could be 5th, depending on who wins and who loses out of Sebastian Buemi for Nissan Edams and Antonio Felix da Costa for DS Techeetah. Now, Sebastian Buemi holds the record with Jean-Eric Vergne for the most pole positions in Formula E history, but this is his first ever appearance in the qualifying duels. Here comes the Swiss, down towards turn 1.
Pick out that braking point, carry as much speed as you possibly can through 1, and then immediately into 2. There's just no straight there. Now braking, settling the car down, keep a tight line through 3. Antonio Felix da Costa coming down over those bumps into 1. So quick in free practice too.
Is he quick through turn 1? He is, but only 600ths up on Buemi. Buemi is now coming into turns 11 and 12. Da Costa's advantage still, 600th. It goes up a bit now to over a 1/10 of a second. Da Costa, I think you say, has to be the favourite for this one because of the pace he had earlier. Buemi's wide.
Yeah, he was wide. You heard he had to get off the throttle. He went back to throttle, came off, and that's going to kill his lap.
Yeah, Da Costa is 2/10 up at the moment, but he's going to gain a lot of time here at the hairpin if he gets it stopped and through turn 13 neatly, which he manages to do. It's 2/10 here. Buemi's heading towards the line, but watch it jump up now. There, 6/10 of a second, and Buemi gesticulates. He knows he made that mistake, and it should be neat and tidy now for Da Costa into the final corner. He's 7/10 of a second ahead on the power, and then out towards the line, and it'll be Mortara versus Da Costa in the semi-finals.
108.3. The track continues to get quicker.
That lap time for Buemi was not terrible. So Dennis will be 5th on the grid. 6th on the grid will be Pascal Wehrlein. 7th will be Sebastian Buemi. 8th on the grid will be the championship leader Stoffel Vandoorne. Very, very interesting grid once again that we're going to get delivered here as Jean-Eric Vergne waits for his semi-final.
That was the quickest time so far on the first duel.
Quickest time so far is the message to Antonio Felix da Costa. And it's absolutely correct. As he makes his way back into the pit lane, da Costa. He's into the semi-finals for the 3rd time this season. But he has never made it through to a final yet. He's lost in the semi-final on 2 occasions, in both Rome and Berlin. Here's a look at Jakarta Bay. And here's a look at what the semi-finals are going to be. Evans beating Vandoorne, Vergne beating Wehrlein, Mortara beating Dennis, da Costa beating Buemi. Both DS Techeetahs through to the semi-finals. And Vergne will face Evans, and da Costa will face Eduardo Mortara. Then the winners go through to the final, and then the winner of that wins the Julius Baer Pole Position. So semi-finals in just a couple of moments. So there you can see that the next semi-finals will be coming up in about 7 minutes' time. There's a look at the Jakarta Bay and Ancol Beach, which is up there. There is the DS Techeetah garage, and Vernon is down there.
I am Jack. Yeah, thank you very much, James Ross, Sporting Director of DS Techeetah. Both drivers once again in duels, but both drivers in the semi-finals. An opportunity, a chance really, that they could face each other in the final.
There is a huge opportunity for us, to secure pole position. The guys have been on fire since the FP2. We made some big changes, and yeah, now we just got to make it count.
Any changes that you can talk about?
The biggest thing is just understanding what to do in these high temperatures. We haven't experienced really racing in this high temperature for a long time. So getting the tyres to work, also having the drivers to have the car working for the whole lap. Because here it's quite easy to push too hard in the first part of the lap and then struggle at the end. I think we've seen that with some of the other guys.
Just explain to us, what is the window that you're looking for with the tyres? What happens when they go out? Temperature obviously increases. What effect does that have on the car and therefore the inputs from the driver?
I think that the way of driving the outlap to get the tyres just to not build any temperature whatsoever, and then just trying to make it last a lap. It's so difficult with these cars to make the tyre last a whole lap when you're pushing that hard. So seems to be what they've mastered so far.
Yeah, but the thing is with DS Techeetah, you always seem to know what the algorithm is and the formula, because you guys seem to be consistently competitive.
Hard work.
There you go. That's the answer to everything, James. Thank you very much. Hard work, Jack. Hard work, my friend.
Yeah, not really aware of that concept. We're just coming to the end of the lap with Antonio Felix da Costa in the DS Techeetah. Rossiter's going to be doing some driving, isn't he? Hasn't he just been announced that he's going to be driving the
hypercar?
The hypercar, that's it, the Peugeot hypercar.
So Kevin Magnussen was slated to drive that, but obviously with Kevin getting the Haas Formula 1 drive, they needed a driver, and James Rossiter, sporting director for DS Techeetah, was also the reserve driver, so he's going to do that.
Yeah, part of the development team as well for the hypercar. So
busy boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Antonio Felix da Costa then, setting the quickest time in the duels. And you'd be hard-pressed to bet against a DS Techeetah pole position now, after they were so quick in free practice earlier on, and have been quick so far today.
You've got to do that lap, Jack. It's that old thing. The margin for error is tiny. The walls are right there, but the offline as well. There's marbles, there's dust. You've got to be millimetre perfect.
The wheels going on Mitch Evans' car as he gets ready to head out into the duel with Jean-Eric Verne in a moment. There is Mitch Evans. So he has taken pole position before. He's made it into the semi-final as well in Rome. Never been knocked out in the quarterfinals, and that's still true. Mr. Dantarazzi.
It's ahead against Mitch Evans, but in terms of that track, it's new for everyone. How hard is it to get a fast-flying lap here?
Yeah, it's not been straightforward. I had a really good lap in the group stages, but then, yeah, I don't seem to be able to put it together in the duels actually after. So I haven't been able to do that recently actually. So yeah, it's a little bit of work to do from our side there, but I'm confident we can race quite well. It's going to be an unknown track for everyone, very hot conditions, and a lot to manage.
So duels not necessarily in your favour, but racing is. 3 podiums in the last 3 races. Are you still brimming with confidence?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we have a good race car. I feel comfortable in the race as well, so I feel like I can do a really good job from where I'm starting. Would have preferred to start a bit higher up, obviously. I think it would have made my life a little bit easier, but it is what it is. And yeah, we're going to try and make the most of it.
Good luck today.
Thanks.
So Stoffel van Dorn, as we look at how the progress is going to go on with Evans versus Verne and Mortara versus da Costa. This will be the 3rd race in a row that Van Dorn has qualified 8th, i.e. slowest in the quarterfinals. It's the 5th time in 7 races that he's been the slowest quarterfinal runner. So 5 times in the last 7 races, Van Dorn has started 8th on the grid. It's quite curious.
Yeah, it sort of tells me whatever he does at 250 kilowatts, it's not working. It's not slowing down.
Whatever
at
he's doing at 220 is great.
Yeah, at 220 exactly. He's absolutely spot on. He's both in racing and qualifying conditions.
Let's look at Jakarta International Stadium, just over the road from the racetrack here in Jakarta. Let's get back down to Radzi. Busy.
Pascal Wehrlein, there are no easy head-to-heads, especially not against Jean-Eric Verne, and it comes down to fine margins. How was that for you today?
Yeah, I would say it was not bad. Still struggling a bit with balance and so on, but I guess everyone is with these temperatures. And yeah, being in Group B and not having a lot of time to cool the tires down doesn't help. So in the end, it was close. It was 1/10. And yeah, it's a shame because in the race we will get a 5-place grid penalty. So we will start outside of the top 10. Yeah, just try and do our best and see what we can do from there.
We can see a smile on your face, so you still seem happy within yourself. What does success look like for you now, given that penalty?
Yeah, some good points would be nice. Yeah, for sure, the race win is yeah, a bit out of reach for us at the moment, but good points would be good.
We hope you get it, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
5-place grid drop for breaking a seal on the components at the back of the car. They didn't change anything or do anything, but Porsche wanted to check the component in the powertrain after the failure in Monaco. So that's why it's a 5-place grid drop for Pascal Wehrlein. Right, about to get going with the first semi-final. Jean-Eric Vergne getting ready to head out on circuit. The Frenchman up against the New Zealander. And the winner of this will be guaranteed a spot on the front row of the grids. So semi-final 1. Mitch Evans for Jaguar TCS Racing against Jean-Eric Vergne for DS Techeetah. Evans has beaten him before.
I love trying to handle the pressure of qualifying, trying to swing together that perfect lap with no mistakes to see where you stack up on the grid.
Well, I love this new qualifying format because it's only yourself and the other guy. And if you want to go ahead, start on pole, you just need to beat him and beat the other guys.
So the light goes green at the end of the pit lane. Mitch Evans makes his way onto track. Jean-Eric Vergne waits. And this is a tight one to call this, but I just think with the pace that DS Techeetah have had, my money would be on Vergne, I think.
Yeah, it's tough to bet against him, isn't he? That pace in free practice 2, but also his pace throughout the knockout stages, the dual stages, has been so impressive, both him and Antonio Felix da Costa. One thing to think about here, pole position obviously very important, 3 points, but it's also on the clean side of the circuit. That could make a massive difference when we have the start of the race this afternoon. Anybody in the even numbers might be really up against it.
Very wise words.
That's the first.
So it'll be Evans across the line first, followed by this man, Jean-Eric Vergne.
Again, we see him coming through this sort of 10-11 area, trying to put no energy through the tyres at all. Not trying to slide them at all. You don't want to put any loading into the tyre, don't want to put any heat into the tyre.
Vergne has been in the semi-finals in 3 of the last 4 races. He took pole position for the second race in Rome. Through the long left comes Vergne. There's the view in the DS Techeetah garage. That's the Jaguar garage. And this is the rundown towards the first corner. Evans on the left, Vergne on the right. We've got split screen here, so this isn't in real time. Evans is further ahead on the road, but we've synced them up, and they are right together coming through turn 2.
Got to say, Vergne turned in a little bit earlier into 1. Just watch the steering, and both of them wrestle with trying to put the power down. Jeff slightly ahead, Jean-Eric Vergne, 0.06 of a second. Understeers is turn 8 now.
Gap will extend or decrease here. It extends fractionally, but only by 0.08 of a second.
Yeah, trying to link those corners together and then picking out your braking point again for 13 over the bumps.
Vergne now picking up 0.1 of a second. Evans maybe a little bit wide at the hairpin at 13. And the gap goes up even more. 1/4 of a second now is Vergne's advantage. A tidy final corner, and this should be enough for Vergne to get into the final. It's now 0.3 of a second. Vergne out towards the line. And Vergne's in the final. 0.3 of a second quicker. And Jean-Eric Vergne advances through.
Got to say, a 1:08.3 on hot tyres. That is quick.
Yeah.
It's very, very impressive pace.
But second row of the grid for Mitch Evans, and the championship leader Stoffel van Dorn is starting in 8th place. So championship-wise, that's decent. But of course, there is also the small matter of the second place driver in the championship. That's Eduardo Mortara. And the Rocket Venturi Racing man is up against Antonio Felix da Costa for DS Techeetah. Mortara has never failed to make the final once he's got through to the duels. And he took the last 2 pole positions in Berlin. Antonio Felix da Costa yet to make it to a final. Here comes Mortara across the line. Goes to the middle of the road to avoid the worst of the bumps and then gets onto the brakes into turn 1.
Quite a late turn in into 1.
Oh,
no.
Big slide for Mortara. That's going to cost him a huge amount of time.
You can't give that sort of advantage to Antonio Felix da Costa, especially as on form as the DS Techeetah has been today.
Keep an eye on the gap as they exit turn 1. Da Costa, he gets a bit wide as well. 400ths between them.
Looks like more
Struggling
than
to
that.
get it in. We'll see whether the gap extends dramatically. In the next bit it does, 10th and a half.
Yeah, the car slamming the ground and over the bumps into the braking zone of turn 7. Mortara into turn 13, the hairpin.
Right up towards the wall on the exit, but Da Costa's advantage is growing. A quarter of a second now, ahead of Mortara. Is it going to be a DS Techeetah head-to-head for the final? It's certainly looking that way. Mortara, second place man in the championship for the first time. I don't think he's going to make it into the final. Once he's got through to the duels, he's closing in a little. He does a 1 minute 8.693. It's slower than Mitch Evans this time. So that would be 4th on the grid for Mortara if he loses to Da Costa here. Da Costa across the line. It's a DS Techeetah pole position. It's a DS Techeetah front row. Now we must just decide which order, because Antonio Felix da Costa is into the final.
Pressure just ramped up. First guy you want to beat is your teammate.
And that'll be 3rd on the grid for Mitch Evans.
So you will be second behind Jeff.
Come on, nice one.
And 4th on the grid for Eduardo Mortara. Now, as far as head-to-head qualifyings go, Vern and Da Costa, it's currently 5-3 to Vern. This was the slide from Mortara at 1.
Yeah, it looked worse on the in-car, but I think he had to get out of the throttle because that wall was approaching in a hurry. Just watching from the in-car. Yeah, it went really early on the throttle. I think we're going to see more of this afternoon when the tyres start overheating and losing grip. And this is going to be a really tough race.
So Mortara, second in the championship, will start 4th on the grid for the E-Prix later on this afternoon. Evans will be 3rd, and Mitch Evans down in 8th. So that's a really mouth-watering prospect. But what is also intriguing is a DS Techeetah head-to-head in the final. First time we've had it. Is it the first time we've had a team head-to-head? No, I think we might have had like a Porsche head-to-head in Saudi or something, but we haven't had many team head-to-heads. But now we have one for pole position. Jean-Eric Verne versus Antonio Felix da Costa. Verne currently 5-3 up. Da Costa making his way back out off the weighbridge, and we'll head back down to the garage. So,
who have you got?
Verne. I think I'm back in Verne. He was a couple of tenths quicker than Da Costa earlier on. Da Costa always gets annoyed when I say bad things about him on the television, but...
I'm going to have Da Costa.
Are you actually?
Yeah.
Are you mad?
We'll soon find out.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not taking anything away from Jean-Eric Verne, but I just think Antonio looks a bit more comfortable right now. But it's, I think, which one of them does not make a mistake?
Absolutely. Well, we'll be getting underway with the final in a few moments' time. Cars have just got to go back into the pit lane for a moment, back into the garage, and then in about 5 or 6 minutes, the final will get underway. Before the finals begin, let's head down to Vernham.
Jerome D'Ambrosio, initial thoughts really on Edo 4th on the grid?
I think it's a great quali. He lacked a bit of grip on the second duel, so didn't allow him to go into final. But overall, it's another strong quali for him after the back-to-back poles from Berlin to now be again on the 4th position on the grid. I think he's good. He's on a good momentum. He's feeling at one with the car, and so let's see now what we can do in the race. But a great quali for us.
And also the good news is that Stoffel is way behind you guys as far as the championship fight goes.
I think, P8 is not very far, and at the same time we have a close relationship with Mercedes. We work well together. They provide us with the powertrain, so we don't wish bad on them at all.
All right, thanks, Jerome. It's 4 places.
Jerome D'Ambrosio, then team principal of Venturi. And Verne just cooling down. Now, this was the semi-finals runs from the DS to Cheetahs, so this is our sort of fake final, our dress rehearsal for the final, as it were. Costa had a bit of a correction into 1, or on the way out of 1, I should say.
I said Da Costa was a bit tighter out of 4 to set up for 5. I mean, both of them so far inch perfect, aren't
yeah, it's identical, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, Da Costa made a slight mistake actually in 12, so there's lap time to be gained there.
It's just...
This is fabulous.
Like, I sort of don't believe that we're watching 2 different laps, you know what I mean? It's like we've put the same lap side by side.
I could see one mistake from Da Costa in 12. Fabulous stuff from both drivers, and I don't know how you separate that. If you're a team principal, you pat them both in the back and say, well done. Now you've got to do it all for the pole position, though, and 3 points.
Well, absolutely. And those 3 points for Jean-Eric Verne would move him just 1 point behind Eduardo Mortara. 3 points for Antonio Felix da Costa would leave him still 10th in the championship. He's scored quite a few times this season, da Costa. He's had 5 points finishes, which is not bad at all, but just not the big points. Said to me yesterday, oh, I was just letting the others get a head start. And now I'm going to really start trying. So we'll see whether that comes true.
Yeah, let's see. It's going to be interesting, for sure. I agree.
Eduardo Mortara.
It's going to be interesting for sure.
Sorry. Making his way to Radzi. And so I'm sure we'll hear from him in a couple of moments' time. The man who will start 4th on the grid, the 2nd place man in the championship. He and Mitch Evans on the 2nd row is a very intriguing prospect. And this is what I love about this qualifying format. It just shuffles it up enough that every grid is interesting. Da Costa, that's interesting. Da Costa has lost 5 duels and won 4. And has only been in the final on 1 occasion, which I think is this occasion, right? Yeah, this is Da Costa's first final appearance. Werner's won 8 duels, lost 5 duels, so he's got a better win ratio than Da Costa, and this is his 2nd appearance in a final. 14 pole positions. If he gets pole, he will be the outright record holder for pole positions. We saw the drivers heading to Radzi. Let's go join him.
Well, Eduardo Mortara, we can see you taking a drink there. It's hot out here today.
It's I've rarely felt so bad actually because of you're going like into hammam or something like that. Like seriously, like it's pretty bad. But like, look, I mean, it's part of the game. It's the same for everyone. So.
But for yourself, your form from Berlin seems to be continuing 2nd row.
Thank you, thank you. It looks like we figured out how to be more consistent, let's say, in qualifying. We pretty much extracted pretty much all the performance out of our car today. I think more was difficult to do. Yeah, both the Cheetahs were extremely competitive, and I'm extremely happy to be starting on P4 for the race. It's going to be a long one.
It's going to be a long one. It's going to be a fascinating one. Go and cool down. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
So Eduardo Mortara, 4th on the grid, 2nd in the championship currently. But now it's time for the final. This is how we got here. Evans beat Van Dorn, Verne beat Verline, Mortara beat Dennis, and Da Costa beat Buemi. And in the semi-finals, Verne beat Evans and Da Costa beat Mortara. And in the final, it is Verne versus Da Costa for 3 points for pole position for a Julius Baer trophy and for the front of the grid for round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula World Championship. Verne's beaten Da Costa before earlier this year when they went head-to-head, but now the battle is for pole position between Jean-Eric Verne and Antonio Felix da Costa, the 2 DS Cheetah drivers.
So we watched that onboard, that side-by-side, and both, it was too close to call. If you're either of these drivers, where are you going to make the difference? Where are you going to just find that extra I mean, it could be half-tenth of a second. That could be the difference between winning and losing. Da Costa parked the car. No, sorry, Jean-Eric parked the car tight against the wall, maybe trying to get in the shade a little bit.
If you're this gang now, Mark Preston, the CEO, or Thomas Chevauchet, the team principal, or James Rossiter, the sporting director, are you nervous at this point? Do you care at this point? Because obviously the race engineers on each side of the garage and the mechanics on each side are going to be nervous and want pole.
At this point, you're playing with the house's money, aren't you? The worst you can start second. So if I'm obviously each car's got their own thing and they want to beat the other. But if you're in any of those guys you mentioned, you're just like, yeah, this is cool. This is what we work for.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work goes into this, to putting this team, to any of the teams in these positions. So to have that kind of advantage in Formula E, quite impressive.
Now, I believe Da Costa on the radio has been told not to fight and to save the tyres. So we'll see what happens.
If that means don't overdrive it, because his tyres are a bit warmer, maybe.
We'll see. Because we'll see what happens once the lap begins, which it will in a couple of moments' time.
Because he had the second of the duels as Jean-Eric Verne starts the lap.
So the run down towards turn 1 for Jean-Eric Verne. Gets onto the brakes.
God, he's carried some speed in there. So far, so good for Jean-Eric Verne.
Through the first few corners, Da Costa starts his lap now. So keep an eye on the tower on the left-hand side. Da Costa into the first corner. Clouts the curb.
Yeah, he's definitely fighting it a bit harder, and again that might, and that might be it right there. Tires maybe slightly warmer than Antonio Felix Da Costa's car.
This is Jean-Eric Verne now coming into 11 and 12. He's having to fight it. Da Costa's lost 2 tenths with that moment at turn 3.
I think I'm going to lose my bet here, Jack.
But Verne has been a little scrappy here and there. Comes into 16, the advantage builds to 1/4 of a second. A few more corners to go for Jean-Eric Verne. He's now over 3 tenths of a second ahead. Jean-Eric Verne is about to become the record holder for the most pole positions in Formula E history. He's going to beat his teammate. He's going to grab 3 points. Da Costa's still fighting the car as he comes through the final couple of corners. Maximum attack from Da Costa, but minimum pace. Through the final corner, sliding again. It's like he's on a drift track, and it's not enough. Jean-Eric Verne takes pole position for the Jakarta E-Prix, his 15th pole position in Formula E, a new record.
Okay, that's pole, baby. Well done, mate.
And it's a front row lockout for DS Techeetah.
I think we actually saw smoke out the back of
We did, didn't we? Honestly,
as he drove.
It was like an actual drifter out the final corner.
I think just might be the tyres are that bit warmer from his later duel, but yeah, 1-2 for DS Techeetah. That's really impressive.
First front row lockout of the season. There's Verne.
Down to 13. Oh, that was close.
So close, love it. But that man, Thomas Chevauchet, is going to be happy.
He's probably thinking about the race already.
Yeah.
A brief moment of happiness. Great job, right? Okay, how are we going to win the race? That's the mindset you need. Driver, engineers, the whole team, mechanics.
Verne returning to the garage. 8 tenths of a second, the margin in the end was pretty big.
Yeah, I think Da Costa just knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just started giving us a show.
It was great.
Yeah.
Tires are ready. Look at the right rear. And we've still got a race to do.
They're a bit too far away to hear what Rossiter and Chevauchet are saying. But high fives all around in the DS Techeetah garage. Now attention turns to the race, which is coming up in just a little over 3 hours' time. And the one pole position that Jean-Eric Verne had earlier this year in the first race in Rome, he was not able to convert into a win, ended up finishing second to Mitch Evans in that race. And he'll be hoping to convert it for his first win of the season, because no wins yet. Third in the championship, but no wins. So let's have a look at the side-by-side and just watch Da Costa on the right-hand side, because there's a lot of slides here, and the first one is on the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, just look at the steering wheel. Watch the different steering wheel from the two of them. And then watch here, right here in the middle of 2 and 3. There we go. That's the first slide. It just doesn't have the grip. It's just the tyres are not biting into the surface the way Jean-Eric Verne's are. The braking zone, turn 7. Yeah, I mean, Da Costa already, he's just having to slide. And it looks more of the rear tyres. And this is what we're going to see this afternoon as well.
Oh, big one there.
Big slide. I mean, that's late. That's through 9. That's not an initial power either. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of this afternoon. The driver's trying to keep the tyre in its sweet spot. So it's not going to be easy. Another snap of oversteer. And by this point, I mean, Da Costa's known for half a lap. He's in a bit of trouble. And it just gets worse. The more you slide the car, look at that, it was 16. The more you slide the car, the more the tyre heats up, the more it slides.
Here comes the big one into 18.
Watch him on the throttle, watch him snap back to the left on the steering. That was beautiful.
Lovely.
You should get style points for that.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
And that was it. Where we saw the semi-final was too close to call.
Yeah.
That was pretty clear pretty early on, about turn 2, what was going on.
Still, second on the grid for Da Costa, his best qualifying performance of the season. He was third in the first race in Berlin on the grid, 5th for the second race, and now second. So he's in good form as far as the qualifying goes. Anyway, this is how the grid will line up. Antonio Giovinazzi will be at the back. He and Robin Freitz failing to qualify. Alexander Sims will be 20th for Mahindra, then Oliver Askew in 19th. Dan Ticktum didn't get a second lap in, so he's down in 18th on the grid. Max Gunter, 15th for the Nissan Edam squad. Nick Cassidy, only 13th. Sam Bird, down in 14th position. Pascal Wehrlein with a 5th-place grid drop means he will be 11th, which promotes Lucas de Grassi into the top 10. Nick de Vries, 9th, winner of the last race. Andre Losser will be 8th on the grid. Stoffel van Doorn will be 7th after the grid drop for Wehrlein. Jake Dennis, 5th. Sebastian Buemi with his best qualifying of the season so far. And the same is true of Da Costa and Verne. Front row lockout for DS Techeetah. You can see how sunny it is. Now that Verne is out into the sunshine, heading down towards Radzi. A cold towel on the head. A bit of rehydration. Da Costa. Just trying to get a look at his demeanour, and a little... We'll hear from him in a moment, but maybe a little disappointed. Obviously, I mean, he got to the final and didn't manage to take pole. Mitch Evans will start third on the grid for Jaguar TCS Racing. Lunchtime already at Jaguar. It's not even noon. Not even noon. But it's already lunchtime for these drivers, because 3 hours' time, the race will be underway. Enjoy. What's he got? I'm trying to see, is it like some salad or something? Or something healthy, or a bit of pasta, or...
What have you got?
Oh, what's that? A sauce thing going in a... Oh, nice. Some like... Wow. That's lovely stuff. Right, that's the fuel of racing drivers. Wasn't quite enough. But look at that. The track temperature 46 degrees, air temperature 30 degrees. Lovely clear blue sky, though, which is heating the track up, but means that at the moment, we haven't got any rain on the horizon. Sebastian Buemi with his best qualifying performance of the season so far. So Sebastian Buemi will be 6th on the grid, but on pole position, it is Jean-Eric Vergne.
Jean-Eric Vergne in the inaugural Jakarta E-Prix, pole sitter and 3 points. You must be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, no better way to start the day. I think we've done a good job so far this morning, and in qualifying as well. Antonio did a very good job also to be there with me in the final. So it's always very tough, to beat the guy that has the same car. So no, I'm happy. 3 points as well. It's, those are important for the championship, and then in the race we see what happens. It's better to start first than behind, I guess.
A brilliant DS Techeetah head-to-head, but also a bit of history for you. 15 pole positions now. Never before has anyone achieved that in all of Formula E history. So you are a record breaker. That is pretty cool. Yeah, that's bad. I didn't know that. I'm very happy. That's good. I hope I can, keep breaking that record. And it would be. It's good. Didn't know. Well, the upshot of that victory means you now get presented with the trophy of the Julius Baer Pole Position, presented by Jason Moo, the head of private banking of Southwest Asia and the branch manager Singapore.
Moments like that always make me a bit stressed because Jean-Eric Vergne didn't know that was true, and I think it's true. I'm pretty sure it's true, but and we have checked it, so it is true. Jean-Eric Vergne then, pole position. Julius Baer pole position, 3 points, which take him to 98. Just 1 point now behind Mortara, and just 13 points off Stoffel Van Dorn. It's really closing in, especially with Van Dorn starting 7th on the grid after their 5-place grid drop of Verline, and Evans 3rd and Mortara 4th, and Vergne on pole. It's really, I love this qualifying format and how it just gives you that little bit of shuffle, just a little bit of shuffle, and makes for a very intriguing E-Prix. We had a great race in Berlin, and hopefully these fans that have made their way here to North Jakarta, to Ancol, will be enjoying it as well. Jake Dennis giving some feedback. 5th on the grid for Jake Dennis for Avalanche Andretti. He's been on the front row twice in Diriyah and Rome, but a 5th place here is a very solid performance. Oliver Askew down in 19th position. A little bit more frustrating for the other side of the Avalanche Andretti garage. So positives and negatives for Roger Griffiths, but it will be 5th on the grid for Dennis. So, second place on the grid will be Antonio Felix da Costa. DS Techeetah front row lockout, not quite enough to beat his teammate this afternoon.
Antonio Felix da Costa, brilliant driving all morning. In the final, it was a head-to-head against DS Techeetah as well. It seemed to go a little bit differently there, so a bit pear-shaped. What happened for you?
Look, look, we're approaching the second. We are in the second part of the season now. Jeff is obviously in a little bit of a stronger position to fight for the championship. So let's just say we played a little bit of a team card there. It is what it is, no problem. Regardless of all of that, I'm very happy and have to be very thankful to the whole team and all the work we've done in the last couple of weeks, because I've pushed my team, especially my side of the garage, very hard to capitalize on the second half of the season, and we arrived here with a strong car, making no mistakes, and we have a front row lockout for the team. So very happy with the job that everyone's done back in Paris and here as well, executing the job today. So let's see what we can do in the race.
What's fascinating is for everyone, they come in knowing very little, but what you guys have done has clearly worked. What do you put that down to?
I don't know. Look, we've always been pretty strong in new tracks, I have to say. I don't know. Car is obviously strong. Everyone here has been dominating at some point. You know, Mercedes dominating here, the Porsche is dominating there, and it looks like this is a track that's suiting us well in a one lap. I think in race pace we are not bad, but I saw some other cars doing some good stuff this morning. So it's going to be a super close race, I've no doubts. And normally we have to manage all the energy, but today we're going to have to manage a lot of temperatures as well. So there's going to be a lot on the plate for us today.
We can't wait to see it. Have a great race.
And the man in charge of both of those drivers at DS Techeetah, Jev and Antonio Felix da Costa, who we've just seen, Thomas Chevaucheur, is with us now. Thomas, he said there's some kind of race card being played there. Can you explain a little bit?
I would say it's car protection more than team cards. We know that we are on a very difficult track. It's very hot. It's very rare to have that opportunity to have that kind of performance with both our drivers on a race. We want to achieve very good results there, definitely with both cars.
I mean, obviously, both cars are really quick. The DS Techeetah is so good in qualifying trim today. What's going to be the difference in the race? What's going to be the biggest things to deal with?
I think there is not much difference in a race. No, it will be very difficult on the long run with that heat and the track temperature. It will be very a challenge for the tires, for the cars, for the drivers, for everything. So it will be really about reliability of the car and management for the heat.
Is this a unique situation? It is a unique situation so far this season, but we've seen conditions like this before. In Sanya, it was really hot. Also in Santiago, it's really hot as well. So you guys seem to have everything mapped out, everything planned out. You go back to the old algorithms. Is that the way that DS Techeetah do things?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of experience. We have been
Jev, come on, Jev. If
we
you're
have been in
do
the
something, you may as well
championship since the very beginning of season 2, so we have a huge experience. So we know that this is very difficult conditions. Here is the man.
Congratulations, Jev.
Well done.
Thank you.
That was pretty good for an old guy, huh? I'm really old.
Yeah, but he's old. He's old, but he's not driving anymore. You're still driving. Jev, congratulations. It looks like a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, it was, and it was getting trickier and trickier as the tires get warmer, and it was quite hard to put a lap without doing mistakes. And I think we've done a good job with the team. Obviously, the car is good because we were both in final, Antonio and myself. So now hopefully we can have a nice, clean, controlled race this afternoon and bring home some strong points.
You're thinking of the championship. You have to be thinking about the championship halfway through the season. This is going to put you both in good stead to hopefully build a lot of points. Front row lockout, which is awesome. But you've won the championship. You're our only back-to-back champion. Are you thinking of a third now?
No.
Don't lie to us, Jev. You are thinking of a third.
Okay, I am.
Yeah. And this is the perfect team to do it. Thomas, you guys seem to have this amazing consistency, which, dare I say, not many teams in Formula E, the World Championship, seem to have. But you guys are consistently at the front, consistently fighting for points, and, of course, championships.
Yeah, definitely. We are working hard to be there. We have experience. We are focusing on getting the best people to do the team, especially the best drivers. So I think we have two very good drivers. We have very good engineers, a very strong teams, very good mechanics to have strong car, reliable car. And we know that reliability and consistency is what we need here.
And very diplomatic.
Very. Are we at the point yet in the season where we can talk about team orders for you guys with the different championship positions between your two drivers?
Once more, I think it's a bit early to speak about that. We're here speaking about car protection here. It's very difficult conditions, definitely. So we already experienced issues in very hot conditions. I'm sure you all remain that. At least me personally, I don't forget. So it's really car protection at the moment.
All right, Thomas, Jev, thank you very much. You go and celebrate. However, it's not over yet. We've still got the race. Good luck to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Let me take your microphone. Thank you. All the best. A very confident team, Dario.
Yeah, that performance was... We don't normally see that level of dominance from free practice 2 and then into qualifying as well. Absolutely mighty. So I'm sure that they're not just thinking about, oh, yeah, that was great, how well we did. They'll be thinking, right, okay, the race, this is going to be big. Thomas Chevaucheur said, look, the car protection. They're just thinking as well, the battery temperature. There's so many variables in this afternoon's race. 45 minutes plus a lap. But I think this is going to be an endurance race.
Well, if you look at the front of the grid now, we've got the two DS Techeetahs, but then in the next row, you've got Mitch and Edo. I mean, those two guys are fighting for the championship.
Oh, yeah. No, the championship battle is alive and well right through it. And I think we might see some surprises from further back in the field today, but we're seeing how, to almost contradict myself, we're seeing how important qualifying is. You want to challenge for this championship, you better be qualifying in that front half of the field week in, week out.
We started the qualifying show talking about the success of Mercedes in Berlin. That hasn't continued here for the EQ team in particular here in Jakarta.
No, not yet. I mean, the race is far. We've got to run the race yet, but qualifying, no, certainly not where they would want to be. Stoffel starting 8, but again, the slowest of the guys that made the duels. But I think he'll have a strong race. Nick de Vries needs to. We thought he found his mojo back in Berlin, but still struggling a little bit. We hold him to a very high standard. He's our current world champion.
We know that the heat is going to play a pivotal part in this race because the temperature is rising, the sun is beating down, track temperature is increasing. You've been there, Dario, you've raced in a car in this kind of temperature. Psychologically and physically, what impact does it have on the driver?
I think psychologically as much as anything, that's going to be the big thing today and how the drivers deal with that. When they get really hot and then the frustration starts in the race, maybe staying cool. Same for the drivers all here, the mechanics, the engineers here as well, when they're making these decisions. They've got to be just ice cold when it's so warm. That's the biggest thing. Physically, all these drivers are athletes. They all, every day they're in the gym, so they'll be fine with that.
Now, I feel like a leaking tap at the moment. It is so hot and we're both sweating like crazy. Let me ask you some silly physical questions. When you're driving, do your fingers get sweaty in your gloves?
I never really noticed that.
Do you get sweat pouring down your brow? And is there a possibility of it going in your eye?
Yeah, it does go in your eyes and it stings
Really?
when it's in your eyes, yeah, definitely. I would open the visor just a little bit to get some air coming in, just to kind of dry it all out.
Interesting stuff. All right, thanks, Dario. Let's go over to Radzi.
Sebastian Buemi, it's hot, it's humid out here, it's tough qualifying conditions. How was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did a good job in the groups. Obviously, I didn't have the pace to fight Antonio. I did a small mistake, and there is some marbles on the outside of the line. So as soon as you touch them, you basically have no more grips. So lost a lot more time. But even without that, I don't think I would have had the pace to fight him. I think he's been the fastest of the duels. So yeah, I mean, still something like P7 for the race. So we'll hope to do a good job.
The DS Techeetahs, both cars have been very, very fast. What you touched on in terms of the marbles and the conditions of the track, is it actually of benefit to back off a little bit when it comes to the race?
Yeah, the thing is, it looks like the tire wear is massive, the most we've ever had, and then it's a bit difficult to know whether it's the asphalt falling apart on the outside or the marbles, but clearly you'll have a single line in the race, and if you end up running wide, you'll hit the wall or lose a lot of lap time.
We don't want that, but all the best of luck for the race today. Thank you.
I like this when we walk down the pits. It's pretty cool. Dario, Jack, you've sat in the commentary booth. You've seen qualifying, this new qualifying format. I hate to harp on about it, but I'm going to. It's doing exactly what we want it to do.
We've just got a great little shuffle after this, and everyone's not in the exact quickest order, but the championship is just muddled a little bit. Stoffel Van Dorn, championship leader, down in 7th on the grid. You mentioned it a moment ago. Mortara and Evans on the 2nd row. Verne on pole position. It's set up beautifully for this race.
It's a great track, Dario, isn't it? It's turning out to be quite a good one, this.
It is a great track. You know, there's not much of the track. The car is actually straight, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the tyres this afternoon. There's a couple of good overtaking opportunities, particularly turn 13, so easy to make a mistake too. I think it's all to play for.
Yeah, turn 1, turn 13, attack mode on the exit of 16. Will people get a little bit...
Seven's a tricky one as well, though, isn't it?
7 maybe overtaking?
Yeah, 7's so wide, though, and it's very bumpy on the way, and so we might see some interesting moves going in there. The only problem is, as soon as you go slightly offline, it's so dusty still that could create some interesting interactions between cars, shall we say.
So do we think that DS Techeetah are going to use Da Costa as like a rear buffer? Right, so just
it was interesting
like
what he said,
gunner,
though.
Yeah.
He said that there was some kind of team card played. I don't know what he was implying there. Thomas was having none of it. He just says it's just protection of the car. But we'll see, I think. Dario, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would depend on how they get off the line. You know, if Antonio Felix da Costa's on the dirty part of the circuit, it could really... He might not be second going into the first corner. And, I mean, I think 4, 5, 6 wide into turn 1 is definitely possible. Depends how brave people are feeling.
We've seen DS Techeetah not play well together in the past when they've started.
Yes,
at the front. You think back to end of season 6 in
You
Berlin.
think back to most races, right? There was that point where they couldn't play nice at all.
Well, I think Jeb's the one consistent thing in all of that, because he had the same thing with Andre Lotterer, who allegedly was his best mate, and they're still driving into each other.
Yeah, and they're still best mates as well, aren't
Absolutely.
they? So I think we've got a lot on the line here.
I think before we finish qualifying, we should talk about how much fun it looked like Antonio Felix da Costa was having on that last lap. He was just throwing the back end
He was
around.
just showboating it around, wasn't he? And I think there'll be a lot of that in the race later.
Yeah, but I don't think they were doing it on purpose in the race.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, join us later for the race, live from Jakarta. We will see you later this afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Going in 30 seconds.
Radio check. Copy. Loud and clear.
All good. Let's go.
All 5 laps are on.
Go to drive. Go to drive.
Push it to attack, push it to attack. Legend, keep it up.
Increase charge where we can. Excellent job. Push to attack this lap.
Good job, good job.
go green in Jakarta.